Shortly after falling ill, the Duke Jehan VIII perished in the spring of 1180, leaving the Duchy of Aquitaine at the tender mercies of a regent who hated young Jehan the First. John quickly worked to improve relations with his vassals, dispensing gold and titles to those most aggrieved at the boy duke. Forced to seek the tutelage of a drunkard, John's future was far from certain, and by December of 1180, two ambitious men propped up a cousin of John as the Duchess of Aquitaine. This was put down quickly through the use of hired swords and vassal levies in the spring of 1181, and two rich ransoms were extracted from the rebel counts. In the wake of this succession war, the pretender sued successfully for house arrest, and a period of calm prevailed. The young duke showed stiffness of spine in January 1183 on the occasion of a drunken count murdering a servant at a feast, earning John a reputation as a harsh but just ruler. An outbreak of general peasant lawlessness in November 1183 took a more serious cast when Count Guillaume of Angoulême and the aforementioned murderer count rebelled in favor of a pretender from outside the realm. This was again put down quickly through the expeditious use of hired men in May of 1084. Duke John was forced to make a hard decision as Clemencia de Poitou attempted to escape house arrest in 1085, only to be thrown into the pit for her troubles. This act, as well as the putting down of two rebellions and an outbreak of lawlessness, obtained for the realm 5 years of peace, and aside from the occasional incident of overdrunkenness at a feast, the land healed. John's minority finished out in the summer of 1090, with his chancellor Count Robert of Auvergne successfully penning legal claim to the county of Maine after more than 10 years of trying, and sufficient gold and respect from Mother Church attained to declare himself King of Aquitaine. Now a man, Duke John the First wasted no time setting out to win fame and glory, petitioning Pope Anastasius IV to join the First Crusade at Yuletide 1090. Before setting out for the Holy Land, John wed Adela de Toulouse in March of 1091, pocketing a tidy sum and securing an alliance with Toulouse. After 3 months at sea, John and his small host of 1,700 men landed in Tripoli and set siege to Boutron, assaulting it and taking it on the 31st of July, 1091. Hearing that a Christian host, outnumbered, was giving battle in Beirut, Aquitaine rushed south to help, saving the day but nearly being crushed by a mighty host of Saracens marching north from Sur. It was a close thing, with the men rowing for their lives, but they were able to escape to the ships. Before Duke John was gone a year, Count Adalbert of Perigord, a perennial rebel in Aquitaine, declared the pretender Pierre de Savoy as the true ruler of Aquitaine and raised his levies. John curtailed his crusading and returned to Aquitaine, crushing this rebellion in May of 1092. After consolidating his hold on the Duchy of Aquitaine, John declared himself king and rightful lord over Aquitaine and Toulouse in April 1093. This was met with no opposition, and John instituted increased restrictions on his vassals in December that same year. A period of peace followed, with no events of note other than the filling of John's coffers. In 1094, feeling secure at last, John married his sisters, Ines, Elaine, and Philippa off to various lords, and the period of tranquility continued uninterrupted. In 1096, John established himself as a mild ruler. Bernat, Chancellor of Aquitaine, requested permission to fight a duel, which was granted, and John interceded with the Pope on behalf of Prince Bishop Pierre Raymond of Agen, effecting the lifting of his excommunication. By autumn of 1096, John, feeling secure in his kingship, saw opportunity to declare war with King Philippe of France over the county of Toulouse, a rich land bordering Aquitaine and rightfully belonging to it. After a series of hot assaults on strongholds in Toulouse, Foix, and Carcassonne, the King of France acceded to John's demands in December 1097. Not one to hang back, John declared war on the Count of Maine a few months later and wrested control of that rich county from Richard de Normandy in April 1099. John ended the decade considering the claim of his vassal, the newly created Duke of Gascogne, over the county of Navarra to the south, and looking into the children of King Garcia of Navarra and King Sancho III of Castile. Somewhat tardily, Adela de Toulouse began to show with child in January 1100, and there is hope that the new kingdom of Aquitaine shall soon have a boy heir. Can John the First, King of Aquitaine, continue to rule justly and set his dynasty on a path to greatness? John's hopes for a son were dashed when a healthy daughter, Elaine, was born in August 1100. In May 1101, John discovered that Count Hamelin of Limousin had started a faction for pursuing lower crown authority in Aquitaine, and measures were taken to win him over. Surprisingly, Duke Carlos, who owed so much to King John, had joined this movement, but quickly demurred once Hamelin abdicated from the plot. That betrayal notwithstanding, John decided to go to war with the King of Navarra with Duke Carlos's claim on the county of Navarra, a war that was successfully concluded in July 1102. Since John's vassal, Count Archambault of Bourbon, held claim on the county of Bourges, war was declared on the Duke of Anjou, busy fighting his own war of independence against the King of France. Just as Aquitaine mustered its host, the happy news of a second child in the belly of the Queen reached John's ears. During the fighting, a daughter, Elessa, was born in July 1103, and the war was ended soon after Count Archambault taking the county of Bourges as his own. Castile, being racked by division and rebellion to the south, seemed a natural path for expansion, and in April 1104 John decided to once again muster the host of Aquitaine, this time to press Duke Carlos of Gascogne's claim on the county of Vizcaya. Count Anico of Vizcaya's armies elsewhere, and his strongholds lightly defended, the county came into Duke Carlos's hands in September that same year. It was at this time that the growing power of the de Béarn dynasty came to light, with Duke Carlos holding Béarn, Navarra, and Vizcaya, and his heir Count Centol holding Marsan. In 1105, at the age of 30, John finally became a credible diplomat and began to turn his efforts toward better stewardship of the realm. As the weather grew warmer in the spring of 1107, John decided to press Duke Carlos's claim on the county of Najera, the risk of concentrating too much power in the hands of the de Béarns notwithstanding. This war was over in time for John's vassals to oversee the harvests in October. The truce with King Philippe of France over in December 1107, John went to war for the Duchy of Gevaudan in eastern Aquitaine. In what has become a bit of a common theme, news reached him that the Queen was with child as he marched to the front, and a son, John, was born in February 1109. Philippe, engaged in northern France in a vain attempt to bring his rebellious vassals to heel, could not resist, and John burned and killed in Toulouse without let. In the midst of all of this, John, longing for meat and drink and the comfort of a tavern, decides to go into the taverning business in Melguil. As King John the First laid siege to the King of France's holdings in eastern Aquitaine, his chancellor's efforts in Brittany bore fruit, a legal claim to the county of Nantes. John, seeing his vassals forming factions against him while at war, sent warrant of arrest to Duke Alberic, who defied King John and raised his levies. While running these wars from his tavern in Melguil, John pocketed a tidy sum and eased the discomfort of a long campaign. In November 1111, Duke Alberic was imprisoned, and John continued to lay siege to King Philippe's castles, concluding that war and obtaining the title Duchy of Gevaudan and the County of Gevaudan in February 1112. A daughter, Euphrosynia, was born almost immediately afterwards in March, the news coming to King John as he marched home in triumph. Not one to rest on a legal claim, King John gave his hosts scant rest, then raised them again in May 1112 to pry the county of Nantes from the Duke of Brittany. During this war, Duke Carlos of Gascogne created himself Duke of Navarra, giving rise to suspicion in King John that soon he would vie for kingship of Aquitaine. John's chancellor, a skilled intriguer, wrote legal claim to the county of Nevers in Burgundy in February 1114, and a groan rose from the host of Aquitaine, wearying of constant battle. But it was not to be. After wresting the county of Nantes from Brittany in July 1114, John sent his vassals home and did not pursue his claims in Nevers. In March 1115, another boy, Jehan, was born to King Jehan, and 3 peaceful years followed. In 1118, King Jehan married his eldest daughter Elaine to Prince Thorvald of Denmark, hoping to see her onto the throne of that kingdom, but Thorvald perished suspiciously less than a week later. Not to be deterred, King John arranged a similar marriage to a prince of Norway, and the union between the kingdoms of Norway and Aquitaine was consummated in July 1118. 18 months later, on receiving reports of rebellion in Norway, King John knew that it was time. On Christmas Day 1119, he sent declaration of war to the King of Norway, supporting the claim of his son-in-law to the throne of that land, and raising his vassals to war in the north. King John, now having seen 45 summers and beginning to feel his age, makes landfall in Viken on the 25th of April 1120 and begins marching toward the Norwegian interior, bypassing a rebel army. His intent is to allow the King of Norway and his rebel prince to fight one another while he focuses on reducing Norway's strongholds. Thankfully, while John was away, little of import passed, save that his court chaplain fell into the snares of heresy and had to be put in chains. After a long campaign, King John forced the King Torgeir of Norway to recognize Aslak the First as King of Norway, and John's son-in-law was crowned on the 8th of February, 1125. As King John made his way back home, word came of John II's passage into manhood, and passage through various members of Aquitaine's manhood. At about the same time, Duke Armand reported that he had successfully crafted legal claim on the county of Rennes, held by Earl Robert of Mortain. Aslak, no hangback, committed Norway to holy war for Karelia, and though Aquitaine's vassals could not bear another campaign in the north, John supported his son-in-law liberally, then raised them to seize the county of Pentevere from Duke Eosin of Brittany in February 1127. Duke Arnaud, ever a resourceful man, went about his lord's business in Asturias to Santillana, keeping King John ever supplied with causes for war. King Elaine of France, having had enough of Aquitaine's expansion, declared war in January 1129, hoping to recover the county of Bourges. Aslak, who owed so much to King John, could not be bothered to raise his levies and aid his father-in-law. The decade ended with John no longer a young man, but confidently at war with France and with claims on 4 counties. Can John complete the work his chancellor has made possible and establish dominance in France before death takes him? Okay, so with John being 55 years old, it's time to definitely take some stock of what business he needs to do before he dies. He's got these claims to take care of that will not be inherited, so
soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie. Lately come forth of the low country, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers 3, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie. Lately come forth of the low country, with never a penny of money. Fellow, I'll drink to thee. Pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie. To all good fellows wherever they be, with never a penny of money.
I will hold on to these extra titles because if I die, my heir will need some gifts to give out.
Here, good fellow, I'll sing you a song. Sing for the brave and sing for the strong. To all those living and those who have gone, with never a penny of money. soldiers three, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie. Lately gone forth of the low country, with never a penny of money.
Very well, I will accept that. Now, with this large army coming to relieve the situation, I will go ahead and offer the white peace to the King of France.
Whatever it is, with never a penny of money. We be soldiers three, pardonnez-moi, je vous en prie. Lately gone forth of the low country, with never a penny of money. With never a penny of money.
At this point, I'm really not being very particular about who educates who. I do want to educate her, however, because she may grow to be a good wife for John, being a distant cousin. No, let him be proud. I don't need additional fertility. I don't need additional fertility. I'll spend some time with my friends instead. I deserve it. I will let her be content. Excellent. Now, do I need... I'll release him from prison. $106 gold? I'm gonna have to hold on to him for a little while longer. Excellent. I will go ahead and disband these men, so that they are not caught flat-footed. The main thing is that I try and press as many of these claims that John has right now. Okay, so the Duke of Auvergne. Just having work there to improve relations. Join these armies together, begin the assaults. Now if John can just hold it together long enough to do all of his end-of-life business here. Between me and Genoa, we ought to be able to break this down pretty quick. Excellent. Hmm, 53 soldiers per month. About a 6-to-1 ratio there.
Poloneno tu spovola, a v ní postať snižno bíla, odsud po kseniu vin píznal, odsud po kseniu, ja to vína trembiti.
Supporting my son-in-law's situation. But in reality, it seems like it's not going to be of much help, and that the de Poitieus will not come into power in Normandy based on the rules of inheritance that are in effect.
Lasceremo girare il fili su movali o ci segni il che viter può sostenere su notus no pisnju hrao odsu tog senju ja to vina trembiti liš od nevicilem zviti rozvižal
A very tough castle to take right there.
Duša zdražda je zvuk trembitilna je.
Go and liberate these castles, and then I believe I'll be able to offer terms.
La 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 la.
We shall see.
Voci segni speršišti ho nasusni skobaci bezupeno na trembiti tužno rav.
I will go on storming his castles for a time.
Ja to vina trembiti
because I can. This could be bad. This could be bad. This could be it for the king. We will see. Farewell, King Jehan the First, the Great of Aquitaine. Farewell.
Boharjače jak žar, boharjače jak žar.